I am God. I am Mother Gaia, Mother Earth, Great Spirit, Spider Woman, White Buffalo Calf Woman. And I produce miracles. Kind of like Jesus. I've done over 100,000 surgeries. I healed people of cancer over and over with the power of love.
I want this to be a cautionary tale for all families, whether you have a family member that you think is involved with a dangerous group or a group that you consider dangerous. You always say, never give up. Keep going to that gate every weekend and standing there, because the leaders are telling them that nobody cares about them, nobody's looking for them, nobody wants them home, and that helps to control them.
What we're looking at when we look at the Amy Carlson group is a very extreme and destructive cult. And we really need to recognize that these groups are not all the same, that some are much more destructive than others. So for many families, they have the option of communication. But as you say, there are many of these groups that have total isolation. And when I talk to people who have left such a group, they will say, well, the reason that I felt that I could leave was I knew from my family trying to reach me so many times over the years, and them coming to look for me, I knew they still cared about me. I knew they still loved me. And so I knew I had somewhere to go.
It was interesting. I interviewed Michelle Knight, who was one of the 3 girls held captive by Ariel Castro for the 11 years that they were held captive. And I interviewed her when she was rescued. And it was interesting that one of his primary tactics was telling those 3 young women, nobody's looking for you. And he would turn on the news after there had maybe been a piece on the news and say, see, look, there's no big news story. They're not looking for you. And it really got to those 3 girls that they had disappeared and nobody cared. That's such a profound tool to isolate your victim. And if you can just keep that door open and let them know, it makes such a difference. So I'm so glad that you talk about that.
And I think that's why we sometimes don't get it, that what we think is crazy about a destructive cult, and we look at it and we say, well, how could they believe that? How could they believe that she is God? We don't realize how isolated these people are, and that what we think is crazy, they think is perfectly normal. That also reminds me of all these polygamous children. They brought 400 of them out of a compound in Texas. And those kids had the hardest time dealing with just day-to-day life because they knew nothing but the leaders of their group and that lifestyle. And so we need to realize that we shouldn't judge people in a destructive cult and call them crazy without trying to understand the environment they live in and the pressures that they're under. These are people who were totally dominated morning, noon, and night by Amy Carlson. They knew nothing other than what she told them. I think they're safe in the jail where they can be watched. They're safer than they would be if they were outside of the jail, but I hope that they will get the help that they need.
This is morbid, but what is your take on the story that her eyes were allegedly removed from her corpse? What's your take on that? Do you have a story or a question for me? Click the link in the description and tell me what in the world is going on.